All right, let's go to Ukraine. This, again, was actually one of the best moments of the entire night, policy-wise, and possibly the most consequential should Trump ever become president. Again, it started with a voter. It's interesting how that works. He was very concerned about the amount of money going to Ukraine and wanted to know what President Trump thought about it. And then Caitlin decided to insert herself into some sort of win-lose situation for Trump's policy whenever it came to diplomacy. Here's the full exchange. Let's take a listen.
The current administration has made it clear that we should continue to provide military equipment to Ukraine so that they can defend themselves. Do you support this decision, and how would you deal with the increasing threat posed by Vladimir Putin?
First of all, thank you very much. It's really nice. And it's an important question, so important, because we're giving away so much equipment. We don't have ammunition for ourselves right now. We don't have ammunition for ourselves. We're giving away so much. Absolutely.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking down this country. Now,
what do you, can I just follow up on that? You said you don't think in terms of winning and losing? Mr. President, can I just follow up on that because that's a really important statement
let me
that
just
you just
follow
made
up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying, Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done.
When it comes to what's happening there, when you were in office, you said that you respected President Putin. Do you still respect him today?
He made a tremendous mistake. He was a smart guy, you know. I remember I said he was smart, she was smart. Putin made a bad mistake, in my opinion.
What was his mistake?
His mistake was going in. He would have never gone in if I was president. We used to talk about it there.
Okay, so he made a mistake. He's not endorsing the Russian position.
Right, by going in.
Well, first he's like, he never should have done it and never would have happened if I had been there. Of course, so that's the starting point. Second, he made a huge mistake. Third, this was the most thoughtful answer I've seen a U.S. politician make yet. There is no winning. I want people to stop dying. Whenever he says, the other, funny thing is that if you say, quote, I want Ukraine to win this war, well, what does that mean? Do you want Ukraine to invade Russia? Do you want Ukraine to fully take back all of its territory pre-2022 or pre-2012? Because those are actually, which borders? You know, what it's like talking about Israel. They're like, with settlements. I'm like, well, 67, 45, whatever. It's like Balfour Declaration. They're like, there's a lot of different ways that we could talk about it, right? And that's why it's a nuanced answer. It was the best answer I've heard yet. I want everyone to stop dying. I want to bring the conflict to an end. And actually, the admission by the press and by the freak out over this is that anything that you say where I want the war to end and not necessarily 100% on the terms that Ukraine wants is some sort of capitulation towards Russia. That's the ludicrous part of the reaction.
Yeah, to say I don't think in terms of winning and losing is a genuinely kind of nuanced and enlightened way to think about war and peace.
Right.
Taking a controversial anti-death position.
Right.
He wants people to stop dying.
Right.
If you went back to the Vietnam era, you would see the media coming after a president who was against the war saying, "What, you don't want South Vietnam to win?"
Right. That's
right. Well, what does that mean, South Vietnam to win? Does it mean we're going to take over all of South Vietnam and run out all of the guerrillas? Does it mean we're going to take over North Vietnam and unify the country?
Good point.
If you said at the time, I don't think in terms in Vietnam of winning and losing, I think of stopping the death.
Right.
And you accomplished that policy agenda, there would be millions of Vietnamese that were still alive as a result of that.
Yeah, or think about the Korean War or any of these other. These are messy conflicts. The borders.
South Korea never won.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean,
just
in my
paused right
opinion,
now.
they did. They ended the war and they became one of the most prosperous nations and developed nations on earth. They literally sell us cell phones and cars. I mean, it worked out for them.
After a whole bunch of military dictatorships and death squads. But
true. Okay, but I'm just going to say, at the end of the day, they gave me K-pop, all right? So
there you go.
They gave me BTS. So at the very least, they absolutely did win. People, in North Korea, I'm pretty sure they're cracking down on K-pop because they view it as some sort of cultural. My point being that, win, lose. If you talk to people in South Korea today, they're like, yeah, absolutely. We're glad that it came
it's also,
to the conclusion that it did.
If you go to Vietnam today.
Yeah, they don't even care about us. They don't think about the war at all.
There's gigantic Coca-Cola billboards. You're like, what was this war over? We lost, but it doesn't look much different than it would if we won.
And, you know, I think the most gracious thing about the Vietnamese is that they really don't hold it that very much against you, which I think is nuts. You know, having spent some
Killed
time
2
in
million
Southeast
people,
Asia,
and they're like,
I personally could not imagine, you know, having, exactly. And not that long ago. I mean, you know, for example, when you watch the Ken Burns documentary and you're watching the people who fought in the Vietnamese War, both on the American side, but on the Vietnamese side, and you're like, wow, they're talking like
they're boomers.
Right, yeah, they just don't even they're literally they probably got 20, 30 years left. I know I actually have future family members who fought in Vietnam, and you know it's actually kind of interesting for me because I'm like, hey, tell me what was that like? You know, 1968, like what was America like and life like, kind of at that time. But the fact that I could do that about that conflict, and then you know 50 something years later, still be in a place where those people who, you know, descendants, maybe fathers, even grandfathers who were shot, killed, maimed, burned to death, whatever, don't, you know, hold it against the. I think really what we're trying to say is these are messy. Making policy on deterministic statements like win-lose miss the point. Right. Unless you're Ukrainian. And I think that's where I can have some sympathy.
That's absolutely
if you're
right.
Ukrainian, you are free to do whatever you want. And if I were you, by the way, I would think the exact same thing. But I'm not you. You know, we're us. We get to decide, like, to the extent that this marginal conflict matters at all to our lives, to our national policy, to these billions of dollars, and to our own national security, how and what we treat that. And that's, you know, people don't like to hear that, but sorry, like I don't know what to say. Ukraine really doesn't matter to the fate of America either way. And I think it's nice when you help them, but that's pretty much it.
I think if Biden can get the war to a resolution over the course of the next year, so that it, you know, just from a crass, cynical electoral perspective, he'd be in better shape.
Oh, there's no question.
To strike, if he can strike some kind of
prices, supply chain,
after whatever this counteroffensive is,
everyone can breathe a little bit. Be like, okay, yeah.
And
on the
there'll probably be another.
We don't know how it's going to work.
Doesn't mean there won't be another war in 10 years.
Yeah, then what? Another 100
But you know, there's you can't stop that anyway.
To the point about the freak out, we probably should have put this up there earlier. Put this up there on, but we're having such a good time. We're talking. Adam Kinzinger, you know, the freak out on the Republican side, fought for Trump not to say he wants Ukraine to win is insane. Chris Christie calling him Putin's puppet. Donald Trump says he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. Despite how ridiculous this is to say, I suspect he would try to do it by turning Ukraine over to Putin and Russia. Hashtag Putin's puppet. Chris Christie taking a little bit of a book out of Boomer Mom's Resistance Twitter. How's that going to work out in a Republican primary? Interesting, right?
That struck me as his signal that either he's definitely not running for president, or thinks that there's some lane that doesn't exist. What did you make of that Putin's puppet?
Oh, I just thought it was so foolish and outrageous, ridiculous, both on its face and politically. I think Chris Christie loves the one thing that he's always been pretty good at, and that's called attention. And guess what? We're talking about it, and so was all of the major networks. So now he gets to go on ABC as a contributor and CNN and everywhere else, and they all get to do segments about how Chris Christie called Trump Putin's puppet. And I think that's really the only currency he's ever cared about. So I guess congratulations to Chris. You know, congratulations.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now. And Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us. And if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.